as I said, physically talented. There's no discussion. There's no discussion.
Well, I'm glad.
LeBron is a creative player. When you go and you create a player, you create LeBron James. So why are we having a discussion about he's the most physically gifted person you'll ever see step on a basketball court?
Well, this is why we will debate what the podcast title is, because the podcast is already started right now. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to this inaugural episode of this basketball podcast. Eddie Jones Productions, Jones Eddy Productions, it don't matter. It's just something that we're going to make happen. And all I know in this song is fitting that Robert Ory is about to be saved. Be a Robert Ory, it's being Robert Ory, but it's not going to be called a Hush Podcast. It's going to just be called something that we will debate about after this 30 minutes. I'm Andrew Jones with the good sir, James Eddy right now of Americans Didn't Create Soccer, creating. He just wants to take all the names now. He just wants to take all of the names down. But sir, how are you doing after standing in LeBron solidarity with me at the beginning?
How do I feel about what?
Standing in LeBron solidarity with me in the beginning.
It's not solidarity. I think a lot of people think that LeBron is great. I think a lot of people just hold on to the fact that.
Wait. They think he's great. We all know that. But they don't think he's better than Michael Jordan, which he certainly is. Certainly.
Yeah. I think from a skill position.
And career-wise too. Oh, except for shooting free throws, he is better than Michael Jordan at and the mid-range shot, the inefficient mid-range shot. That's the only time I'll say inefficient because it annoys me, the people at MIT Sloan or the non-Black community specifically, a lot in the white community overall, that have tried to circumnavigate a lot of GM jobs and front office jobs for using analytics in terms of whatnot. That in the 90s, we weren't hearing about who's efficient. We just heard about who was shooting the ball in the rim and putting it accurately in the rim. Accuracy.
Well, because efficiency is the goal of the game is to put the ball in the hoop and to not let the other person put the ball in the hoop. So I don't need to efficiency. What other efficiency are you bringing up to me? If he puts the ball in the hoop more than the other person, it stops the other person putting the ball in the hoop.
Yes.
That's about as good as the skill set that you can tell me. I don't need to know that Giannis only needs, I think, so let me walk that back.
No, you're walking it straight. I love where you're walking.
The reason I'm saying let me walk that back is because if somebody takes 17 shots to score the same amount of points that it takes somebody to take 10 shots to do it. That's what we're talking about, the efficiency. So I get that, but in my mind, basketball is a sport where it's a team of 5, which is why we talk about these generational things, right? Mm-hmm. Before the invention of the three-point line, the mid-range game and the post game were the most efficient ways to score. You didn't need 100 possessions to get 100 points, if you want to think about it that way,
mm-hmm.
right? So I think that's what makes the game so different. If we're going back to, how the game was created to being more of a perimeter heavy game,
mm-hmm.
Similar to what we were talking about before we began recording, I said, LeBron is he's going to go down in history as the greatest physical specimen to step on a basketball court.
Well, we will get into that, good sir. We will get into that, but we won't derail the topic. All I can say real quick is that, with our friend Professor Hakeem Walker at Harvard, who would be a lot better at derivatives overall than a lot of these NBA GMs in the office or whatnot. I'm going to say this real quick is that I feel that simply put, I like the word accuracy better than efficiency because we didn't need to use efficiency in the 2099 to try who was really great at just putting the ball in the basket without missing a lot of times. You know how we knew that? Because we watched the darn games. We watched the games and we actually knew basketball overall. People could say Charles Barkley legitimately earned that MVP in 92, 93 over Michael Jordan. If they watched the games or whatnot, they would have actually seen that instead of saying, oh, Jordan should have won that 1 year too. No, he shouldn't have. So
no, he shouldn't have. No.
Thank you. With how historically great Charles Barkley was that season and doing it at 6'5" as a power forward, yeah, you need to put some respect in Charles' name. But this is something where I say overall, I say this is that I just feel that, and this is something where I said this on Twitter, so people, and people will understand where I'm coming from, considering that this is a predominantly black league, that clearly we don't need to know derivatives, and this is us knowing our math all the way. Now, I will say, once I got the calculus, that's when I started studying, when I stopped studying with math. When I went from loving math to like, I'm good. Derivatives.
That's when it gets fun, though.
What happened?
So that's when math gets fun.
Oh, it didn't get fun for me because then I had to start studying. Yeah, it was all natural. Geometric proofs had me a little rocky, but I got through that. I appreciate that. Pre-cal, got through all that. But the thing, man, once I got calculus limits, I'm like a senior in high school. I'm good. I'm either BU or Howard, and Howard sending me the acceptance letter all the way in July when I bent when I went to the orientation the same week at BU. So that just shows you HBCUs, I love you, but even the elite ones can be on that CP time type stuff, But anyway, we'll get into that all the way. Shout out to Professor Walker, who would be actually pretty good at efficiency stats overall. He'll probably say these are inefficient stats to even care about, because a lot of them really are ridiculous stats, James. But anyway,
no, it's not that they're ridiculous stats. My problem is people allow the stats to dictate how to play the game instead of using the stats to verify their point. That's the issue that I come with.
I agree with you. Though the true shooting percentage, I'm going to get at overall or whatnot probably on another episode, because I still can just see that from free throws. And I don't need to separate what's about shoot. That then leads me to believe somebody is a better free throw shooter than something when they're not. I'm just going to keep
You can't tell me. Here goes, I love true shooting. That is my favorite modern analytical stat. All the rest of them can go to hell, in my personal opinion.
Okay.
True shooting is the one that really matters to me.
Now, I'm going to get you towards my side of true shooting, where it's, to me, just a redundant stat overall. I just feel like, yes, they're valuing the multiple points that you're shooting from in terms of scoring, like from the field goals and from the free throws. But I still feel it's redundant, because it takes away from what specifically individually those stats show you in terms of field goals, in terms of field goals from three, and whether you can make some darn free throws. So anyway. I
agree. So, but my thing with true shooting, here goes why I like true shooting. Mm-hmm. I like true shooting because it puts in essence some people, if you're not watching the game, especially from a team perspective, I think what they should sell true shooting as is what an entertainment value for the game. If you're watching the game and the true shooting percentage is 43% for the winning team, it's a boring game. They miss it all the time. So in my mind, if it's a higher true shooting percentage, that tells me the likelihood of this being an entertaining game, which is why I could watch like the Wizards versus the Magic, right? Like that's a game I'm probably not going to. But if the Magic are true shooting 63%, and the Wizards are true shooting 57, and the score is 65 to 59 going into halftime, that means everybody's hot. I want to watch that game because people are cooking. I also think true shooting, what gets me frustrated with true shooting, that they don't use it as on the flip side. In my personal opinion, these dudes are so good. It gets me frustrated how hot people keep trying to create metrics for defense. Defense is one of those things that you can't create a metric for, because it's about watching the game.
You know what? That's interesting you say that. I think that's worthy of a discussion for sure, especially down the line, or maybe even tomorrow before the official restart happens. But and then again, some of the Miami Marlins could come into the bubble, and then Lord knows what could happen. So anyway, and that's for people to watch our upcoming baseball podcast. What's it called, James? RBI Kings, you said?
Yes, RBI Kings.
Well, I would say it stands for Real Brother Intelligence Kings. There's
multiple reasons why it's RBI Kings.
Well, it definitely is, considering that amazing or potentially amazing program MLB that sometimes has not lived up to its tenets. But you know, the thing is, this is truly a basketball, and particularly in NBA and maybe WNBA. So shout out to the great ABL, and I'm not talking about the Australian Basketball League. I'm talking about the ABL, the best women's basketball league ever, and for me, the best basketball league ever, because they didn't even need to call themselves. They didn't even need to sexualize the league term. They just said, we just basketball, and you're gonna respect us and love it all the way. And that's why Teresa Edwards, the great Teresa Edwards, where only Cheryl Miller and Pam McGee are better than this legend. I stand by this, slightly better than Cheryl Swoops, slightly better than Cynthia Cooper, definitely better than Diana Taurasi. That's all I can say over Teresa Edwards. Don't be sleeping. Don't let me get Don Selly on this whole podcast to back me up on that good sir.
I was about to say, yeah, that's who you got. You know, brought up Teresa Edwards better than Cynthia Cooper and Cheryl Swoops.
But that's how special Teresa Edwards were. They were lucky she was in the ABL the first 2 seasons, because if she was in the WNBA, let's just say the Comets would not have won back-to-back like the Rockets or whatnot if they were on the right team. Because Teresa Edwards,
I don't know about that.
She was on the Liberty. If Teresa Edwards was on the Liberty with Rebecca Lobo and Teresa Witherspoon, I'm telling you now. But, you know, the WNBA's had an interesting restart already with what they went down with overall, and we want to make sure we literally have this podcast that walks the walk on that. There's a lot of podcasts, they be like they said they respect women, but then they don't even talk about the WNBA at all. But, you know, it's the eve before the NBA restart, man, and it's something where this is before the comments of what Adam Silver said today, which I found very problematic, considering it seems like every walk of media colleagues or whatever want to praise Adam Silver all the time. And it's like there are times when he needs to really get criticized, and the league as a whole really needs to get criticized. But what is your thoughts so far on how the scrimmages that you may have seen, how all the news and everything, before we not only get into Adam Silver, but we get into Lou Williams and the fact that they have to stay in this bubble all the way to October 13th, or at least the teams that make it to the finals. Like, that's the thing that people forget. It is not just a month thing that they're staying in. They have to stay all the way in terms of most of the teams until predominantly through August, and then September, and then October, and not straight out the bubble. And I gotta give Stephen A. Smith credit. I'm actually play that clip in a bit, because I even know about this because First Take I don't watch every day like other people do. And there's something funny that he mentioned, James. But James, what's your thoughts, sir, about this?
About the bubble?
About the bubble and the lead up to tomorrow's restart.
My thoughts about the bubble is, I don't know. It's kind of controversial the way I think about the bubble. I think the bubble is a good idea. I think it's tough. Part of me wants them to cancel the season, but I see why they can't do that. They were mostly through the season. Part of me thinks the bubble is a good compromise. Another part of me also was like, yo, y'all could have early April, May. Like, part of me was thinking like, you know, they were so close to the end, to be quite honest, and I knew they weren't at a place where they could just start the playoffs. In my mind, it was like, get the season done, but now they're rushing to get the season done. The scrimmages have looked like lackluster they've gone in between lackluster summer league and high intensity, because the teams, as I heard an announcer saying the other day, the teams who have to get ready for these 8 games and playing in these seeding games, they have to play hard. Whereas you have teams like the Bucks who have a bigger than an 8-game lead, so they're not doing anything. They're just kind of getting in shape and getting ready. Yeah. So it's very weird. I think also what makes it weird to me is like the way. So I don't want to say it's weird because I think honestly and I wish I would prefer that they do it this way than the other way. Mm-hmm. I think the NBA has done a great job of celebrating the whole restart nature of this. I think that's good.
I agree with you. Sorry, but I like it better than how the Premier League did this with this horribly named Project Restart. The NBA Restart, nice and simple. I can go along with it. But the Premier, this project, no, what a project. Like, what? Come on. What that you saying?
Well, I also think, like, you know, the fact that they built it in a studio, essentially, that they're going to try, that they're trying to do more so that because the fans aren't there. I think they're going to possibly use different camera angles and different shots. Like, they're like, all right, if we're taking this sport and we're making it a highly produced sport, let's make it let's turn it into a show. And I think that's what you should be doing, right? It should look like wrestling, right? Like how wrestling used to produce those house shows and make them on the Saturday 1 hour programs. That's what it should look like, right? And I think they're doing that successfully. The advertising, in my personal opinion, has been a bit much. I know a lot of people miss basketball. I don't think the action is going to be as fierce as.
You don't like that Issa Rae promotion in terms of Issa Rae saying we couldn't wait to go back or whatnot. You know, yes, Issa Rae. I don't know if you saw it, but it was featured during the WNBA telecast. But yeah.
Oh, I think I know what you're talking about. I can't, for some reason, I can't pull it back in my mind right now. Well, I know what you're talking about. I do remember seeing it. I don't. What I think it is the drama the buzz and the drama that was there. Mm-hmm. It doesn't feel the same. It doesn't feel real, right? Like I'm not as interested to see like what the Rockets. I don't care, right? Like, and I don't know if that's me personally. Again, like I'm also someone who's like, you know, the comeback of sports is something that makes everything feel a little dangerous because everyone is trying to move back to some normalcy.
Yeah.
And I think part of the reason people are getting up and going places without masks or doing things is because I can go home and watch baseball on TV. Like,
yes, great point. Great point, man. It's why I said for the longest, I've said this on Twitter. I said this repeatedly. I even said this towards even the European soccer leagues and how as I said repeatedly on our soccer show, Americans in Great Soccer, for those watching. We have a great soccer show right on the YouTube channel and then soon on all the stream services. But I felt that there shouldn't have been any. I felt that there shouldn't have been any sports until the disease was fully contained in any respective country. And with how South Korea, China, and Japan made sure, especially with them being the epicenters right where the disease is at, that it was just something where you needed to have the disease contained, and especially with here, we got to the point where we saw, Europe, we know what to do, mask and hand sanitizer and distancing or whatever. So we see if Europe can have their soccer leagues go, then we certainly can have our sports leagues go. And I just think that was clearly a horrible example. And you didn't even have to be someone like me covering this on a daily basis from the politics side, and specifically the progressive news politics side, that simply was saying, our country needs to have this fully contained to even think about having sports even come back. And it clearly showed that. And to the point where the NBA, the NHL, they wouldn't have been able to come back if they weren't in the bubble at all. They would have been in the same boat as MLB, and how the NFL is getting very humble right now. Because they thought that because this thing came in March, that it was going to filter out all the way in the summer or whatever, and that they were going to be still good, full steam ahead, season previews, like it's nothing, only for them to realize you're going to be lucky if you make it to week 1 NFL. So I always felt now with this bubble, and this is one thing that Stephen A. Smith said that I wasn't even necessarily thinking about, even though Lou Williams leaving the bubble, like alluded to this, But then it was something where Stephen A. Smith emphasized something where, again, I'm still thinking that at least August, not even looking at the schedule and how long they're supposed to be in this darn thing. And mind you, the NBA draft hasn't even happened. It has to wait for all this to go down. That that this thing is a key thing. So here's what Stephen A. Smith, said last month. Shout out to my BU friend Christine Leahy. We may get her on this whole show and whatnot. Christine, she's anti-LeBron, unfortunately, but she's loyal to both the Celtics and the Bulls. So, James, so this is why it will be a very fascinating discussion overall all the way. But she highlighted this last month with Stephen A. on First Take, and Complex, I guess, said this. And this was a real point. This was a real thing. So let me highlight it right here for people to see as I share the screen. And this is what Stephen A. Smith said last month overall. Take a look.
Here's the reason you got to be worried. I wanted to hold off on saying this, y'all, but I can't hold it more. Do we really think that the recreational activities, what these guys are accustomed to, are going to be compromised for 3 months? I mean, somebody's got to say it. Somebody's got to say it. You really, really think that people are going to be without their wives or their woman? Okay? I mean, the guys that are married without their wives, the guys that ain't married without their women. You really, really think they honoring a bubble for 3 months and are going to deprive? Somebody got to tell the truth.
Stephen A., they set up ping pong tournaments. There's lots of fun activities scheduled.
Hey, listen, after a month, I just said forget 3 months. They're going to struggle with 3 weeks. Why you think they won in Vegas? Can we stop? Can we stop? The issue right now is that you in Orlando for the first month. You got to be alone. You understand? Trust you me. When guys wanted to go to Vegas, because they definitely wanted to go to Vegas. I know this for a fact, Jay. I know you know they wanted to be in Vegas. You could have rented out the Wynn and the Encore or something like that. You could have done that. All right, and had some semblance of a bubble, and cats would have been happy. The reason why they're looking at Orlando, they're like, damn, you got to go through gates, you got to go through a lot of hoops just to do anything. That's a problem for them. Somebody got to say it. These brothers, you said 3 months. I'm saying 3 weeks is a struggle. It's a struggle. Let's just talk what it is. Can we stop playing the game? That's what's going on. Say what? Say what, Max? What you say?
So what are they going to do? What are you saying? After 3 weeks, what happens?
Oh, I'm telling you they're going to violate the bubble. That's what I'm telling you. I'm telling you right now.
No more distancing, Max.
Hey, listen. They're going to practice social distancing with the general public. But I'm sorry, when it comes to either your wife or if you're not married, your girl, no, it's a struggle, okay? I'm just telling y'all. That's what's going on here. Somebody's got to say it.
See, James, the fascinating thing about that part, I was wishing that Jalen Rose was there as a fifth person, because that would have been so funny. You'd be like, Molly Carroll, how would you have handled if Jalen Rose was in the league and whatnot, and y'all dating / now married or whatnot, and you're a month away? That would be very fascinating that would be just a hilarious discussion and whatnot, because it's just something where they're able to have real discussions like that sometimes. Jalen Rose and Molly Carroll right there. It's like, them being trying to be as professional as possible. And they are being professional as possible. And sometimes your personal is your professional. Just ask Joe Scarborough and Mika Brzezinski in the morning. Shout out to the great Morning Joe show overall. So, that's a factor. And then we saw what happened with Lou Williams. And it's a thing where I just think that you had the league. Adam Silver was busy, like, calling up the strip club, calling up Magic City, saying that what he ate for food or how did he get contacted. So, and this affected the Clippers because now Lou Williams, he's out for tomorrow, and Montrezl Harrell is out for tomorrow. Well, you probably thought last week, well, the Lakers are without Rajon Rondo, they're without Avery Bradley. So the Clippers clearly are like going to be favored, especially to win this like restart game or whatnot, or the second game, because it's the Jazz and the Pelicans, which is the first game. And that's with Zion having to be quarantined for 4 days. So it's something where you're saying to yourself, how is this going to affect certain players when they roll out for their teams? And is it something where I couldn't even blame the players if I'm a fan of the team and they're like, oh, they're out and it messed up the team. Well, they're being stuck in this darn bubble where everyone else in the country is busy going around partying randomly and doing nonsense all over the place.
So that's my issue, Andrew. My issue is by them. I can't get mad at the NBA for trying to create the ideal situation of what everyone else in America should be trying to do.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Right? The NBA is trying to do it to make it as best as they possibly can. Mm-hmm. If Lou Williams wants to go to Magic City, that's on Lou Williams. You just don't. They were nice enough to let him back in. I would have been like, once you leave and do something stupid, you don't. I was saying to some of my students, right? Like, if you are a student, I don't know how we broaching holidays. If you're a student who goes to campus, as your parent, I might not let you back in the house.
Yeah. I mean,
so
yeah.
I get what you're saying. I get what they're saying. But hey, if you get to lose, the plus side is you get to leave. So if the chip is as much as important as it is to you, right? Like, so me, I don't have as much empathy with that because
you're making all this money, you're in Disney World, and
well, it's not even just that. My empathy doesn't lie with that because this is what we've all been experiencing since March. Right? Like, I'm not going to be mad at you because you don't have the freedoms, but you don't actually have the freedoms. Your other alternative is staying at home. Like I told you before, my personal opinion was shut it down for a couple of weeks. We bubble in Las Vegas for the West Coast, East Coast. Mm-hmm. We bubble in Orlando or someplace. And we start this bad boy up in April, and we are done by August or June. June, July, mid-July the latest. Because
I mean, even with that bubble, man, that's a lot because I know you're in Vegas. The players will if they want in Vegas, but this is when Vegas was starting to have its wave of, because remember Las Vegas in April, they were really getting that wave of where they shut down the whole city.
So here goes my point to that, Andrew. My point is, you have something that is coming to a term, it's coming to an end, right? So what we did was stop the end that it was about to approach and move it backwards, as opposed to just letting it go, accelerating the ending, right? You could have been done. You could have been done in July, 4th of July, you would have been done. Champion crown, everybody go home. And now we're thinking about next year. Yeah. All you got to do is adjust and hope.
I mean, I think that's honestly, James, that's a better, to me, idea. The problem is that the league was still in such shock with, just like everybody else, with, shutting down everything. And they were looking for that leadership from foolish Republicans. Just say it just like that because we're that real like that and we know it. For foolish Republicans and our fool reality TV show clown. And it's just something where I think overall that they just didn't have any contingency plans back then where they're just like, well, we're just hoping this thing, filters out or something happens or whatever happens. So they were looking for leadership overall. They were trying to learn what this whole disease was, where we could go, which players can we get, how can we finish the season, what can we do,
But here goes my pushback that you and I both know. We both know those teams can afford to close their doors because they have private property. We both know that they can limit the amount of people who go in and out of their rooms. We both know they can control the amount of people who are going to be transported.
They can do that, but realistically,
both know that they can pay for testing every day.
James, realistically though, with so many, because not only the players, but you got the front office, the coaches, old coaches.
The front office don't got to be there. They can work from home. Coaches got to be there. We cut down that. It's the same amount that they're putting in the bubble, Andrew. That's what I'm saying. You close that down. You get your bubble together. Who do you need? My problem. This is my issue. As a college employee, We had to get that done in 2 weeks. 2 weeks, we had to figure that out. We had to figure out how to stop kids from coming to campus, how they're going to get their stuff. You want to talk about logistical nightmare?
Yeah.
What they had to do in the NBA and the professional sports league is nothing compared to what we had to deal with.
Well, I mean, compared to say, this could be a broader discussion, but even another thing in miscellaneous overall, future podcast, it's something where, your school, compared to say a school like Harvard or Yale, who's dealing within the law, the suing the literal current government or whatnot over international students, and the 85 billion other things, it's like for like big entities, for really big entities, even if it's sports related, there's a lot of factors that they really gotta factor in. Now, my main thing is this though, and when I play this with Adam Silver real quick, it's just the basics though, James. It's to me the basics overall, because it looks bad where this league is having all this testing being done, and all the testing that you're getting on the spot. You're getting the results of the testing probably 3-4 hours later or whatnot. You're getting all this, and yet the rest of this country can't even get most of the country can't even get a basic test, especially if you live in a Republican state, right state. You can't even get the damn test and whatnot. Oh, and then if you're in a Democrat state or central Democrat state, when we don't have Medicare for all, look, keeping it real, people. I'm just doing this as if Canada can do it, then we can do it. You have this issues where you can't even get the damn test, like the results a week later and stuff. So, but the NBA, they're getting the darn thing like back in within hours. So, and it's the reason why, because money controls everything with that. So, it's just something where I just couldn't blame any player or whatnot if they want to do like what Rashawn Holmes did, where he got it sued, but he got taken out from his mom, or
Yes.
Yeah. or
I'm gonna blame them. I am. I'm not gonna. You can't. Not if you went to the bubble.
Kendrick Perkins is on
They
your side.
gave you the option to opt out. They gave you the option to opt out. If you go in, you know what you signed up for. If you're not about that, stay.
Well, come on, screen. Don't freeze on my man, James. He's making an important point. All right, let me see if James if his connection comes back, because it just went out right when he's keeping it real. Oh, the way there he is. I was about to play Adam Silver for a second. But like as you were saying, if you couldn't stay in this whole thing, like as you were saying,
when you signed up for this, you knew what you were signing up for. If you knew you couldn't do it, stay behind at home. That's it. Like I'm tired, especially as someone who works with student athletes. Like that's my job, but I'm tired of it. That's not hard, right? Like that's not hard, and that's what gets me frustrated. The key thing, it's a PR. It's funny, but it's not funny, right? That dude went to Magic City. Like you went to a strip club, even if you went there for food, that by itself is something that people don't have the opportunity to do, either because they don't have the means or they don't have the ability to be able to do it.
And by
so
the way, side
even
note,
that you should be grateful for.
The fact that Magic City is open is a whole nother factor.
Right. So that's my point too. Like that's a whole nother issue, right? That state is even having that place be open, right? Like what are they doing with the polls? Because that ain't, it's sanitary, but that ain't going to be safe for them, whatever's happening there, right? So the fact that you did that, you should be grateful for being able to even do that, right? Like, sorry to be that older white man yelling at a cloud right now, but you should be grateful that you get to play basketball. Like, that is your job. Your job is not having to sit at home and take customer service phone calls because you work at the RMV. Like, that also can be your reality, right? And you have no choice.
Yes.
You have no choice but to sit there and be on this computer and listen to phone calls of people complaining for 9 hours a day. And it's worse because you can't even get up and be like, oh, at least I get to go home, because you're still at home. And you're going to go ahead and tell me you can't be in a bubble for 3 months where your food is brought to you? You got a barber shop in there? Like, don't get me started. Like, don't.
James, the deal with customers craziness like you did at CVS for so long, whatnot. And then imagine, then you have a customer who feels entitled, some Karen, some non-Black woman, especially white women, who decides to be like, I don't want to wear my mask or whatnot. They could have easily had that situation. But I will say this, James, they could say back to you like, yes, you're right. We are very privileged NBA players. We're living in Disney World. We got golf everywhere and stuff like that and all this other stuff. But they're saying themselves, but we literally are positive. We're healthy. You mean to tell me that I can't even go 1 mile outside the bubble or 3 feet outside the bubble, and then people are watching me all the time and they're crazy?
I'm not, see, so here goes the difference. I'm not telling you you can't. I'm telling you, if you do, you ain't coming back. This is my line. That's the hard line.
Or you gotta come back and do 4-day quarantine when you're healthy.
No, we ain't quarantining. We ain't 4-day quarantining. You leave, you ain't coming back. Period.
Is it period or is it City Girls period?
It's City Girls period. That's what it is. It's City Girls period. With the 2 snaps after it too. Well, like, I don't understand. It's not a hard concept, right? Like, if the chip is really that important to you, that's a part of the sacrifice. That's the way I look at it. It's a part of the struggle, right? Yeah. It's like when somebody's saying like, oh, LeBron, such and such's legs are hurting because they made it to the finals. Okay, so.
Zoom, don't do this to this man. Zoom, you're being ridiculous now. You're trying to stop our Black realness on Black sports. Come on, Zoom. Zoom. Okay. If James comes back on, James, you can just tell me when you come back on, because they'll unfreeze you because you were just keeping it too real. You're keeping it too real. Yeah, you froze. Let me tell you in the chat. Well, James is keeping it so real, ladies and gentlemen. Adam Silver basically.
I'm back again.
You're back again. No, they're trying to deny you, man. They're trying to deny you with that bandwidth up there. And then you froze again.
It's okay.
Well, you've given the viral moments right there, especially when I posted that on Instagram real quick. Let me get to this quick because we want to close this episode. But we didn't even do who the hell is gonna win this thing. I don't know if you're unfrozen right now or frozen again. But what I'm gonna do is that I'm gonna play what Adam Silver said to Wolf Blitzer just about now 2 hours ago before we did this recording at the moment. And Adam Silver really, to me, had a very unfortunate interview. He showed, honestly, for me, if I was a player of prominence, I would be like Adam Silver. You need to think about resigning. And I'm going to show this whole thing that got me really agitated, as James just got agitated just now, whatnot, for justifiable reasons. I was definitely very agitated, as James knows, before the pre-show when this thing happened. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to get to the part where Wolf Blitzer talked to Adam Silver and whatnot, and here we go, and the part that really took me off about a few things or whatever.
With Microsoft, they have a product called Seats. There's a protocol of racial justice in our
here it is.
By many of the NBA players to the cause of racial justice in our country. How do you see the NBA's role and your role as commissioner when it comes to supporting those players? What will you do, for example, if some of those players decide to kneel during the national anthem? As you know, well, the league has a long history of supporting important issues around social justice. It's no secret that 80% of our players are Black. I think that, around the death of George Floyd, many of our players were seen protesting. Many have been extraordinarily active in the communities on social media. And when we came together to put this protocol in place for returning to play, they made it very clear how important it was to them that just because they were going to be isolated down in Orlando, they still wanted to be actively participating in this movement. So you're going to see down as Black Lives Matter, right? Players, something they worked out with the Players Association, have selected certain messages around social justice to wear on their jerseys. So, and in addition, we're in discussions with our Players Association about creating a foundation, something that all 30 teams would be part of, dedicated to economic empowerment, specifically focused on the Black community in the United States.
Okay, yeah.
But if a player doesn't nail their international anthem, what happens?
Well, we've had a rule in place for a long time that requires players to stand. It precedes my predecessor, David Stern. I will say, though, I do respect the peaceful protest, and we'll see what happens if that's the case. But I understand this is a unique moment in our.
Okay, James. Lord help me, please. Oh my God. You are a part of a league that is almost 90% Black. That all of its major stars, even though I'm a big Nikola Jokic fan, he's my second favorite player in the league, non-objectively speaking, behind LeBron James. And Luka Doncic, no matter how he's literally not a very good three-point shooter, but he's like terrific. He's been terrific all the way in the prodigy. He has a lovely, wonderful mother, and not just because she may look simple, but she's very terrific person. And actually, Luka Doncic was part of some shady, some supposedly shady, Zion-ish type stuff that he had to deal with from an agent or whatever, trying to get money off of him. Because all these agents with these seeing prodigy basketball players, most of them are just really parasites overall, especially the lady that's suing Zion Williams or whatnot. She's the grifter overall, culture vulture. But anyway, my thing is this, Adam Silver. You literally, and this is why LeBron James definitely was not going to put any Commissioner Silver approved slogan, majority white owner approved slogan on the back of their jerseys. I would love to see what Michael Jordan said about this. But yeah, it's just something where if you can't somehow, in this damn day and age, come equivocally and say it is fine, it is their constitutional right, they are Black, they could die, literally, for just being Black. This is why Jimmy Butler, you have to understand why we should allow him to not wear his name on his jersey. He's literally saying not to wear his name on his jersey. There's times when the league literally has alternative jerseys where they don't wear their names on it. I mean, we have a sports game, the Yankees, the Red Sox at home. It's not a big deal if this man does not wear the back of his name on the jersey. Why are you still in this whole age or whatnot in a Black league where racists are still going to watch it? The nutcases like Clay Travis are still going to watch it. All the Barstool fools that don't want to talk about race, they're still going to watch it. Everybody's still going to watch this damn thing. And you mean to tell me that you're scared of them, that to the point where you just can't say simply, it is okay if they pull a Mahmoud Abdul-Rauf. It is okay if they just sit down, just give a knee, like now the Nike supported Colin Kaepernick. They're not even saying middle finger to the flag, which they could do that. And you mean to tell me that you still are not comfortable with that?
Well,
so you need
it's the same way they can't wear the ninja-style headbands, Andrew. The same reason they can't wear ninja-style headbands. It's about power and control, right? Like, it has to. Part of Adam Silver. I said mad boss over. Part of Adam Silver's problem is he can't not appease the potential corporate ramifications. Right? Sorry to go full MJ, Republicans buy shoes too. But it kind of is going back on that thing, right? Like I was saying to you before we got on, it is a bit of a performance, right? Like we want to say that we care about Black people, but this is the hard part. Whenever Black people talk to their white allies and they say, very nice what you're showing.
Not only white, other non-Black, and James, I will tell you about some things off camera about things.
So this is where, because we always talk and say it's gonna get hard. And this is when we say it's gonna get hard, this is the part that we're talking about, right? Like, you might get people who are major corporate sponsors of yours very upset with the stance that you allow these players to take. And to me, this is status quo for the NBA. Give a little, take a little, right?
Mm-hmm.
We'll tell you guys you have to dress appropriately.
Mm-hmm.
But now that you guys have taken that and transformed it into something that becomes appealing, like the pregame looks, or like, what's Russell gonna wear? Now we can relax more because we've taken the lemonade, the lemons that you've given us, and turned it into lemonade. So to me, this is on par for exactly what the NBA has always tried to do, which is kind of double dip, put 2 feet in each play, each role, right? Like, yep, we're gonna have, like, you're telling me some of the stuff that Russell Westbrook wears isn't as corporate unappealing as the do-rags and the Timbs and the jeans?
And
like,
Allen Iverson.
Because who's, not to make fun of Russ, because Russ looks sharp, but who's coming into their corporate meeting with a blazer, no shirt, or a mesh shirt, and some shorts that have a crease in them, and some loafers? Who's coming to the meeting like that?
Not even Jeff Bezos. And Jeff Bezos will wear whatever the hell he want, and he got the most damn money in the world. Even though he was treated like a very regular boss today, because he was embarrassed and very humble.
So
very much so.
Yeah, I don't want to make fun of Russ. Like I said, Russ looks sharp. So, but I'm happy that black men have been able to own what those rules are, right? Like, this generation was smart enough to look at it and say, like, okay, we have to dress professionally, right? Like, and I love it. So, but that's what they do. And now look at how they market it, right? Like, what's Russ gonna wear? The dudes, like, we wouldn't have had to do that if you didn't put the racist stereotype of a dress code in, right? Like, let's talk about the reason we have to wear outfits to the basketball game now, because you put a dress code in, right? Like, so that's what the NBA has always done. They've always kind of given lip service to these issues. They've always kind of said, like, hey, here goes what it is, and we'll be with you, but we won't cross that line. And I feel like baseball has always kind of been like, we'll be neutral. We ain't gonna say nothing, right? Like, baseball's like nothing. Basketball is, we're with it. And then when it's like, all right, so we're about to go protest. Basketball's like, we'll be in the back. Right? Like, basketball's like, oh, y'all going to protest? You need someone to drive the van. And then once you drive the van and you drop it, they're like, oh, come on, leave the van here. And they're like, no, I gotta go park it somewhere. You don't see basketball again. You don't see the NBA again, right? They drop you off at the protest and they go back home. And then the NFL is there handing out the riot gear with the police. That's what the NFL is. The NFL is at the border talking about, y'all need the shield. I think you dropped your shield, right? Like, that's the NFL. We're going with the protest analogy. Baseball is pretending that protests aren't happening. Basketball is dropping you off at the protest, but they ain't in it. And then football is over there like, here's the shield. You sure you don't need the shield? That's football.
So, and the NHL is just walking right by saying, oh, look at that.
No, I'm going to say the NHL is saying, we wish we could be invited. Like, can we come? The NHL is like, hi, can we exist?
What happens, like, we exist, but also, oh, we don't want to go there. Oh, wait a minute, the NFL, let's join y'all. What's going on here? So, I mean, the NHL, which still can have, on its restart, Black Lives Matter on the ice in Edmonton and Toronto. I mean,
how Black Lives gonna matter if they got 4 Black Lives in their whole entire.
Seth Jones, that's my guys. Come on.
I'm saying that as someone who loves hockey. I love hockey.
I used to be a Devils fan before I realized I was the only Black person that loved it in Brooklyn.
I love it, but I'll agree. It would be disingenuous if they try to create a platform. Like, honestly, I would love to see what PK Subban, what Seth Jones, what Marcus Smith Kelly, if he stays there.
Wayne
I would
Simmons.
love to see what I'm forgetting a whole bunch of Evander Kane. There's
Jerome
a group
McGinley. Lord knows from him.
a whole generation of them. Huh?
What happened with Jerome McGinley? I mean, we go all the way.
Jerome McGinley's going in the Hall of Fame this year, buddy. So
that would be a very interesting speech to watch, considering the class.
So, yeah, it's I would be interested to learn if they're doing something, but I agree. I don't think they don't even have a percentage enough similar to what baseball is doing with the Players Alliance, which was the black players coming together. They don't even have a small enough group that they could form some type of alliance to even put together some type of, kind of performance-based, this is what we're doing. Like, the NHL would be so disingenuous if they did it. That I agree with them. Don't do anything at all. It'd come off as disingenuous. Because not only that, but what I'm also saying is a lot of hockey players do a lot of work behind the scenes for things of that nature, for social justice reasons and diversity that goes very unseen, right? Like the Bruins are, if you look at the local hockey team, your local hockey team is typically the sports franchise that spends the most time in urban schools, in the public schools initiatives. So they do a lot. They actually do a lot. But, so in my mind, part of what the NHL has to do is like, yeah, we're just going to keep doing what we've been doing. And being ignored. Like, let's just keep doing it in the background.
I'm half laughing at that and half laughing at a crazy Republican ad from Montana from Steve Daines, who basically said, his opponent, Steve Bullock, where he's going to turn this whole city into socialist radicals that are basically, all I know is Jelani Cobb. It's just the bust out laughing. Because anybody rational would, whether black or not black, you could be a centrist or a rationalist like me. But James, just to close on this down, it's been a tremendous first episode. Well, first off, before we even debate the title for like the whole minute or whatnot, who you think? We can say who you think is going to win. Obviously, this whole thing, if this thing makes it to the end. First, do you think this thing makes it all the way to October 13th? Yes or no?
Yeah. I don't think someone's going to come and infect the bubble. I'm telling you, they're going to kick that person out, especially as it starts to linger on.
LeBron James will escort that person out, especially if
I was just about to say, the players are gonna kick people out. I'm being right now. It's the scrimmage, the politics of the ramifications of them not being able to complete, and dudes being like, I sacrificed a month already, and you went to Wingstop, and this is the reason we're about to, like a Marlin situation breaks out. No, they don't. They will collectively, as a community, kick that person out. Can you imagine a person goes to Wingstop before the playoff run?
Yes, I know. Forget Rick Ross's Wingstop all the way. Definitely, that was a definitely long no answer for our time constraints overall. I mean, yes answer. You think they can finish? I think no. I think it's gonna be the play. I think it's gonna be some crazy outside force, whether it's some crazy fans or something. With that state right now, with that governor, no matter how Teflon they try to be, and then the whole rest of the world in terms of other factors and crazy fans probably mad that these players are really. I mean, if someone like Colin Cowherd could still be so offended, and then he says he takes umbrage that he likes that LeBron is not wearing a single thing on his jersey when LeBron, the reason why he's not Colin, because people wear the thing that would make you then hate him and be like, oh, Jordan's better or whatever. It's just what it is and whatnot. I just think that there's just going to be something to happen where this thing should have never taken place to begin with. Who do you think is going to take the title? I think a dark horse actually is, again, the Raptors, believe it or not, because they love to stay unified over things and whatnot. But in Mike Budenholzer, I feel can blow things. But I have tipped it to the Lakers with how J.R. Smith and Deion Waiters have looked. Because I thought after Bradley and Rondo were gone, I was like, okay, it's done. Rap City, Clippers should win this, or the Bucks should win this. But Waiters and J.R. Smith look very good. and very motivated. And Jasper could certainly, fill in for A.B. Bradley, no problem. If he plays intensity, he probably gives you more. And he definitely gives you more than A.B. Bradley offensively and offensively when he gets going. And defensively, he is pretty athletic enough, just like A.B. Bradley when he's locked in. I mean, for the Cavs title 3 years back, he was even a slightly better defender than Amon Shumpert, when they won. So, and Deion Waiters is very motivated, and he has a better jump shot than Rajon Rondo. Yes, he can't pass like Rajon Rondo. Few people can pass like Rajon Rondo ever, but like he's very motivated and he's very happy. So it's like they lost those two, and then Rondo they'll actually get back actually. So they'll get back Rondo. So I think it's now them in terms of who win it. Who you got?
I like the Bucks in these little scrimmages. The Bucks actually surprised me. I honestly thought they were gonna look the most rusty out of all the teams, but when I saw them playing out, they looked like same old regular season Bucks. So I've been switching my thought. I thought it was gonna be some random team. I got a little nervous because you know how I feel when I pick a dark horse team and then everybody and their mama start picking a dark horse team. Because I was like, ooh, the Celtics might slide. And everybody's like, Celtics. And I was like, oh, God, no. So it's definitely not going to be the Celtics. I think a team like Denver can make a run. Yes, I don't like Houston. Yes. I think Houston came back. Yes. I think the Thunder also looked very spry and athletic. They surprised me with how good they look. I thought the Rockets looked awful.
Jibble. I
thought they looked awful. And then I think it's going to be interesting for them because it's going to be interesting to see how much the home crowd influences the fouls called. Now they're at a neutral site.
We're going to see.
I think it's going to be interesting.
There's no excuses now, officials. We're going to see if you can officiate when in traveling, honestly. Is a thing that for me and James, I wish we're gonna have a full discussion on that because I feel the third step should be allowed because it basically allowed the damn game, so you might as well allow the third step in it either way.
They can't allow the third step because I heard an NBA official, Steve Javie, explained to on ESPN, and it broke the myth that we've heard in the hood the entire time. Because when you play basketball and you're playing in the street, everybody tells you 2 steps, but Steve Javie explained. The first step is not on the catch. So unlike the NFL, when someone has possession, they give a free step. And it makes sense because when I had to officiate for little scrimmages and high school games that I was officiating a little bit for, it makes sense because they're moving so quickly that you don't want to catch. And then if somebody sticks their hand in there, it's like, is the possession lost? So like, you don't catch the gather. So that was always my argument. Whenever I was in high school or playing on the street, people were like, that's a travel. I'm like, you don't count the gather. The gather is a step. That's not a step.
See, because when you catch, whether you gather anything, anywhere, is the fact whether you catch the ball and you're catching it no matter what your feet angle is. And then it's like, is the gather just catching the ball, then you're already pivoting? Or is the gather or your thing where you already
right?
But that's the thing, though, James. It's just something. It's just something for me, and then also with palming, that I think that it's so irrational because you can call it any single time or whatnot. And it's just something where it gets so bad that I think the NBA should be embarrassed that whenever Shaq and the Fool has those segments and they show literally someone taking 7-8 steps, even if it's so minute that it's just hard to see in real time, you're like, oh, he just actually trapped, did he? But it's still though. It's so. I think they even need another official on the court because no, you don't want to call everything a travel. You obviously do not want to do that. But it's like still, people don't know what the hell a travel is still, even with the rule book, where it's like you need to literally show me in a full video image Steve Javie or all of them in Secaucus. Show a demonstration inside the NBA. NBA captain, you know Rachel Nichols going over. Details.
When he explained it on that game that I was watching, it made sense. Because somebody was like, isn't this a travel, Steve? And he was like, no, you don't. He's like, we give you the free step on the gather. It's not, he said, that's the myth. It's not a travel until this player establishes control. That is what the rule says. So again, the hood is what has made travel confusing because everybody's like, you got the ball, you took 2 steps. No, that's not what it is. If I had the ball and you were slapping at the ball, I don't have control. It's when the referee deems the player established control. So once you catch the ball, if you bobble it, right? So that doesn't also make sense to people because hypothetically, you can bobble the ball down the court.
Question: is the Euro step for your travel? Oh, I stopped him.
No, you didn't.
It should not even
You
have
didn't stump
to
me.
the side. That's the NBA screwed this up.
No, you didn't stump me. The reason I'm thinking it shouldn't is because when I used to do Euro step when I was in high school, everybody called it a travel. Everybody called it a travel. I didn't think it never was a travel to me because I knew what I was doing. I knew I was taking 1, 2, and then jumping. That's not a travel.
And it never was a travel for Manu Ginobili when he played in Europe. Let alone, and then they realized that, oh wow, this is an incredible move or whatever. And then Dwayne Wade started doing it.
It was so bad that a friend of mine came back to me when we were out of high school and laughed at me and goes, I'm laughing. He goes, I'm sorry for all those times I was calling you on travel for the Euro step that you were doing to us. Because I used to do it in my mind, like when I was like in the 8th grade, my cousin was like, you get 2 steps. So like in my mind, I was like, so I can do this and I like hopscotch. Mm-hmm. And he was like, I was like, so I can cover it because I could always jump long jump.
Yeah.
So it used to throw people off because I could literally.
You're extending your step so wide.
And then on my next step, I could long jump and I'd be 3 feet farther. And then I could also then jump high. So they used to always be like, that's a travel. And it got to a point where I just wouldn't even argue. I just give them the ball and play defense because I'm like, I'm not going to argue about it anymore. Or what I would do is I'd go behind my back while Euro stepping because a guy would come and try to cut in front of me and I'd cut around and go behind my back and flip it up. And they're like, that's a travel. And I'm like, and then one day one of my friends was like, he's like, you're actually taking 2 steps. And I was like, I know, I just don't argue about it anymore.
Sir, I think right now we're either way, and I'll tell you this after I ask just the final question. We know who's going to be Rookie of the Year despite Ja Morant's great effort, but they already decided. Well, actually, they said they decided all the regular season MVPs, regular season awards before all this, so they would have to give that to Ja Morant over Zion. Then.
I think so, even though, as I said to my dad the other day, we've watched entirely too many Pelicans games this season. If there's anything I can complain about the NBA, anything with this, like I said, I've watched so many Pelicans.
You know where Brandon Ingram's from? Right? Yeah.
It sounds like a national team because I've heard them so much. Like
they were the first
God NBA.
They were the first game of the season, literally. With the Raptors, they were the first game of the season. We know which part of Carolina Brandon Ingram's from. That's for sure. Cranston, North Carolina, has defeated every single.
ESPN and the NBA, please. I understand you want to take advantage of the Zion meme god that he is, but sweet Jesus, can we just not play? Like I swear, NBA, it's getting to a point where like next season, if there is a season, and you have a Pelicans game on a Tuesday night on NBA TV, I'm just not gonna watch. I cannot do this again.
Yeah, man.
I cannot do a full season of this.
Well, they'll get. We'll see if they truly do mess and get better. And Zion is box office. I mean, that fourth quarter that he played in his first game, and we'll relive that all the way because I think it's really worth reliving all the way.
Andrew, but here go. I don't want to cut you off, but my point is, even if he was there, it's not an entertaining game. Like, that's what gets me frustrated. Like, even if he's there, I understand when he was at Duke, it produced ratings. But I don't want to watch the Pelicans versus the Kings on a random Tuesday night. I don't. the Pelicans versus the Bulls, or the Pelicans versus.
I mean, I feel you, but I think the team.
How many times did we watch Pelicans Warriors this season?
Well, that was unfortunate because we didn't know how the Warriors were gonna be that way, and they could have adjusted the schedule. So I think that's just how ridiculous that was. But we will discuss that in full way overall. And now to close, we talked about this as a title of the podcast, where I said previously that it needed to be the Jordan is not the GOAT podcast or whatnot, because it'll be very much university love, and anybody that tries to steal that or whatever, we're taking full response to that. I'm making sure of that. So you can't steal it if you can't use it. Then you mentioned to me in text the inbound, and then you mentioned another. You said the inbounds, or how do you spell GOAT with a J, which is a very good title or whatnot indeed. But I think we just came up with the title of this podcast out of nowhere or whatnot, because it will certainly throw a lot of people off, considering us as the sources overall of this. I don't think I've seen this anywhere else or whatever, but how's the Euro step sound for you?
I like that.
Because my speaker just went out. Darn it, speaker! You say it again, sir?
I said I like that. I like the Euro step.
I like the Euro step a lot too, sir.
I like the Euro step. I didn't like. To me, Michael Jordan is not the GOAT. Centered too much on Michael Jordan. I don't want Michael Jordan's populace and his people to come in like, you watch the image.
But
to me, I don't think
that's the bias. That's the bias off the beginning. But the Euro step is pretty sophisticated, I will say.
I was just about to say the Euro step. That's why I said the inbound. I did a quick Google search. I want to say out of bounds. I like that. I really did like out of bounds. Yeah, but then I found out that there is a radio host in Mississippi who has a ESPN show called Out of Bounds, and I was like, all right, not gonna take that. So, and then I was like, what about inbounds? And I was like, I like inbounds, and I looked at that, and I found a couple of people who had that. So I was just like, okay.
Well, unfortunately, James, I will say, just looking at it just now, as I, because I said to myself, we couldn't have been the only ones, even though we're certainly the only black ones that have done it. There is a little bit of a
yes, and what I came to, that's why I said you can't spell GOAT without a J. That's why I came with that one, because I just was like, I like the way it sounds. It has like triple entendre, right? You can't spell GOAT in basketball without a jumper. You can't spell GOAT in basketball without mentioning Jordan. You can't spell GOAT in basketball without mentioning LeBron James. You can't spell GOAT without basketball without mentioning Magic Johnson. You can't spell GOAT in basketball without mentioning Julius Erving. So that's why I was like, Jay.
All I can say is that we need to put this up as a debate on Slug and Gel's Twitter, because I do have good polls. And, I don't know if you're a big Game of Thrones fan. Did you watch Game of Thrones a bit here and there?
Of course, I've been watching since day one.
So you watch all the way? So, when Arya Stark has no name, a girl has no name, or whatnot.
Mm-hmm.
A basketball podcast with no name. Well, at least that would be the title of this episode. And then, we can throw it up to the community of my Twitter legion. They stayed with me after I got my verified tag taken away 5 times or whatnot. Record forever on Twitter. That's why they owe me a lot of money, because I am a litmus test of Twitter survival, social media survival, professional survival. We'll put that up for discussion, and then we'll get ready to do this quick baseball podcast, because there's a lot to say on baseball overall. Oh, and then I at least got the lead. I got the lead song, and it's not clutch. I got the perfect song for baseball overall. But for people that's watching,
not get taken down.
It's not gonna get taken down at all. It's certainly, James. It is certainly not gonna get taken down whatsoever. So everyone that's been watching it and whatnot, including Robert Ory in the future, I'm Jarrell Jones. This is James Eddy. Right now, we'll throw it up to you on Twitter or wherever or whatnot, or in the comments on YouTube. What should be the basketball titles that we mentioned there, or anything else that we'll say, even though it'll still just be me and James's decision overall, all the way. All I can say is that you are clutch for watching this all the way, people. So thanks a lot. And we'll return after this. We'll get all this. Enjoy the NBA restart all the way. I am Andrew Jarrell Jones with James Eddy chilling on his couch, probably watching some MLB or MLB preview. We're out, ladies and gentlemen. We're always scoring. Me and James Eddy, Andrew Jarrell Jones, are always clutch. Peace.